took a few extra minutes to get some extra chairs set up. I'm going to start this, but I will ask you please to stand, and we're going to start with a flag salute tonight. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, and thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm going to tell you a lot of good news tonight. There's maybe a few bad things going on in Morgan Hill, not too many, but I'm not even going to talk about those because it's not worthwhile. The state of the city is just simply, in a word, outstanding. We're doing really, really well on a lot of different things that we're working on, and we're setting a theme for this year to keep working on the things that we're working on. So, let's take a look at what we're going to do tonight. We're going to start with some recognitions. We always like to recognize. Hopefully by the time I'm done, everybody in the room will be recognized. Talk about a few of the themes that we kind of established for this year. And then the ongoing direction that we have. Most of what we're going to be working on, and I'll take you through this in a lot of detail, is continuation. Not initiating new projects, but continuation, getting things done that we've already started. And then I'm going to go back and review just briefly the values that we have as a community. I always like to remind you of those things and the ethical policy that we have in place. And then I'll entertain any questions, and then we can adjourn to maybe some refreshments after that. So let's start with recognizing the City Council. Mayor Pro Tem Marilyn Liebers, Council Member Larry Carr, Rich Constantine, and last but certainly not least, Gordon Siebert. Thank you all for being here this evening. I appreciate it. City Manager Steve Reimer. City Attorney Renee Gurza. The City Manager and the City Attorney work for the City Council. Those are the only, of the 175 employees of the city, those are the only two that report directly to the City Council. But I really, especially this year, I want to recognize every single employee in the city. I want to put 175 pictures up there. It'll take all night. I won't do it. But we will at least represent the employees of the City of Morgan Hill with the 3 employees that were selected this year as Employees of the Year. 2 of our building inspectors. You might have noticed there's a little bit of building going on in the Morgan Hill community. And so that has kept our building inspection department just extremely busy. These 2 guys, Eric Blomquist and Ron Wake, are constantly out there inspecting the building that's going on. And then Chicky Mejia is also a builder. She builds developmental assets in our youth, and she was selected as the 3rd Employee of the Year. And you're going to see later on some of the activities that Chicky's involved in. But great employees. We have a lot of new employees this year, a lot of new police officers, and there's just a selective sample of some of them. The 2 on the right are police officers. These are multi-service officers. And then 2 more police officers there. Chris Guillaume is here with us this evening. He's back as a new employee, even though he's an old employee because he left to go to the YMCA and then came back. So great to have him back. And Andrew Crabtree is our new community development representative, who's with us this evening as well. Have to recognize our commissions and our committees. We have the Parks and Recreation, and I was told last night, we had a workshop last night, and I was told, don't use acronyms. So I have nothing but acronyms in all these charts. And so penalize me if I don't explain what the acronym is. I want to make sure that I explain every acronym on every chart, because I use them extensively because it makes it easier to type that way. The Parks and Recreation Commission is the PRC. The Youth Action Council, the YAC. You saw Chicky Mejia's photo on the previous chart, and she is in charge of our Youth Action Council, and they are a dynamic group of kids. Our Planning Commission works extremely hard. the Library, Culture, and Arts Commission, and we did form for the next, they've been in place for a year now, and they'll be in place for a couple more years, the General Plan Advisory Committee. And we have about 20 citizens that are serving on the General Plan Advisory Committee. And then kind of shrinking down at the bottom, we have our Corporation Yard Commission. It only meets once a year, and hopefully next year it won't be on the chart because everything will be done and we'll be put that whole thing behind us. So, we have so many partners. I've listed a whole bunch of them. There's probably a lot more that we don't have on here. Here with us tonight from the Santa Clara Valley Water District and previous mayor of Morgan Hill, my predecessor, Dennis Kennedy. Not with us this evening. Mike Wasserman is up listening to the mayor of San Jose in his state of the city. I'd rather be here. I'm glad I am. And serving us in the legislature, our assembly member is Luis Alejo. Our senator from this district is Bill Monning. Our representative in Congress is Zoe Loughran. We now share those three representatives with the city of Gilroy, a huge step forward in terms of getting regional representation and being able to just go to one voice and not have to be advocating all over the place and those kind of things. Really a great step forward. Cal Fire, who just is doing a phenomenal job. I'll recognize him again later. But a phenomenal job of recreating and bringing back into vibrant existence the Morgan Hill Fire Department. Our library, our Chamber of Commerce, I'll say more about them later. The Sister City Committee, former Mayor Kennedy is now president of the Sister City Committee. They're serving us very well. The YMCA, our partners at the CRC. The Cities Association of Santa Clara County. That's a regional body consisting of the 15 cities in the county of Santa Clara. And I am the presiding officer of that organization this year. The Morgan Hill Downtown Association. Where is the League of California Cities? They should be, oh, here they are. The League of California Cities. Marilyn Liebers has joined the board of the League of California Cities this year. So again, regional representation. We'll be talking about that a little bit more later on too. Santa Clara County is that acronym. Have I missed any of the acronyms? I think Y is kind of obvious. That's the YMCA.
VTA.
VTA, Valley Transportation Authority. I'm getting cues from the audience.
He did.
I didn't get it, so.
He did.
School district.
Oh, Morgan Hill Unified School District. Did I miss that? So this lady right here wins the first prize for nailing me on not explaining an acronym. This happens to be my wife, Jennifer Tate, and I just want to acknowledge her. You know, we got engaged 48 years ago, so we're working, you know, toward our 48th anniversary this year. And engaged is a key word. This is kind of a corny introduction of what our themes are. Engagement is one of our kind of major themes this year that we want to really broadcast. And you know, the way I used it, it's a pledge or a promise to bear. But the other theme is staying the course. And a course is something that you go to school for and you enroll in. But that's not really my meaning of these two words. My meaning is, for engagement, is to draw into, involve. And I've got a little problem here because all you people are here. You are engaged. So what I'm really going to ask you is to carry this theme forward, carry it out to the rest of the city. Get your neighbors involved, get your friends involved, and get them engaged so that they are really involved and drawn into the future of the city. Because working together, we can make this an even better city than it is. But if we don't care and just kind of step aside, then it's not going to maybe go the way you want it to go. So that's important. And staying the course is our theme because of what I said earlier. We just haven't completed everything that we set out to do, and rather than lose focus by undertaking new things, we want to stay the course, and instead of a unit or prescribed study, we want to move in the direction that we want to move in. We want to make progress toward that direction. So those are our themes, and what we did when we went to our goal-setting retreat is we put up this chart. The city manager put up this chart and said, let's go through all of these and in infinite detail have a plan for each one of those things. But we kind of decided, no, let's not do that. Forget about that. And what we did, and what I'm going to take you through this evening, is to really revisit what our goals and strategies were, update them, see what else we need to do, and I'll take you through what those are. So our 2013 priorities, I was going to explain a little bit more on this chart. That we have ongoing priorities and current priorities that are carryover, so they're kind of ongoing too. The terminology gets a little hazy there. And this year you're not going to see any new priorities and any new focus areas. They're all carryovers. So that's kind of what we're taking you through. And I explain that because we have a handout out on the table outside that has all this that I'm going to take you through now on it, so that you can kind of follow along if you want. These are 10 different priorities that we had in 2013. Here's 10 different priorities that we have in 2014. What's the difference? There isn't any difference. The only difference on this chart is that we now say that youth is an ongoing priority. We're going to keep it on every year. We're always going to focus on youth. That's the only thing that we changed to the 10 priorities. And here were our focus areas for 2013. The general plan update, the habitat conservation plan, what happens after redevelopment agency went away, what about agriculture in the southeast area of the city and preserving that area of the city. Those were things that we were focusing on in 2013. I introduced Renee. We've hired our city attorney. We got that done. Also, housed now in City Hall or near City Hall is the Habitat Conservation Plan. A whole new agency has been created. It is in place. They're acquiring property and carrying that effort forward. The one that's a little bit tricky is, have we gotten the RDA behind us? And I'm going to say that we have. Okay? So let's take a look. I had this chart that I showed you last week. I showed this great big 800-pound gorilla in the room that was kind of stomping on the city as we were trying to put the RDA in the rearview mirror. But we have made such fantastic progress in working through what you have to do to really get the redevelopment agency behind you, but still maintain some of the funds that were dedicated to doing some of the things and so forth. That what seemed a very bleak outlook, and it was trying to make positive out of it last year, but now it's all behind us and it has turned around and it has become all positive. The grill is gone. I just X'd him out. I want to talk for a little. Rich Ferrato is here from the Chamber of Commerce, this year's president of the Chamber of Commerce. And, you know, last year and the year before that, we were thinking, oh man, the Chamber's not going to survive. They're going to go away. Chamber, without any support from the city, any financial support at all, is thriving. They are doing a fantastic job within this community, focusing on economic development. Focusing on making the existing businesses stronger, focusing on helping in the education realm. They're doing a lot of activity there. I just want to really salute and congratulate the Chamber on what they've been able to accomplish in the last year. When you don't have a redevelopment agency, some of the money that used to go to the redevelopment agency gets put back to where it was going to go if you didn't have a redevelopment agency. And one of those areas is the library. So the library system within the county of Santa Clara is now getting a little extra money. And as a result of that, we were able to open on Mondays. So we now have Monday hours in the library. And then there's just the whole relationship that we have with the county of Santa Clara. That relationship was a little bit iffy 8, 9 months ago, a year ago definitely. And we've been working very closely with them. They've been getting more and more of a partnership kind of an arrangement, a team kind of an approach. And so I'm feeling very confident that there are some things that I'll show you a little later on that still need to be accomplished, but we are on the right path in terms of getting everything done that we wanted to get done with a redevelopment agency, having the best possible chance of accomplishing all those things as we go forward, and it really looks positive. So what I'm going to do is go through each of these 10 things and then the other 4, and that's really giving you an update on what's going on in each of the areas. Public safety, I'll go first because that's always an area of prime concern to the council, to the city, to everybody within the city. We want a safe city, and we have a safe city. OBS is an acronym that stands for Outcome-Based Strategy. And Chief Swing is here, right? Stand up, David, and give record. Under Chief Swing's leadership, the department put together an outcome-based strategy. A couple of things that happened with that. This is the arrest rate for things that are open. It's the highest in the county. That's the highest arrest rate in the county of all the cities. This is the closure rate. How much you get closed. How many things get resolved. 70%, again, maybe not the highest in the county, maybe there's one city that's higher, but it's definitely 1 or 2 within the entire county. VIP is an element of getting engagement within the city, volunteers in policing to serve as very important people within the police department, and you know, it advances the spirit of community policing and all that we're trying to accomplish. So those are some of the very positive things that are happening, in spite of the fact that we probably are still, I don't know where San Jose is, but I believe that we're still 15 out of 15, we're the lowest among the cities in terms of staffing, police officers per 1,000 population. Given that we didn't have the resources to really fulfill a complete staffing of the police department, going to the outcome-based strategy and getting this kind of achievement has really just made us very positive and feel very safe, which is the bottom line measurement of the outcome-based strategy. I talked about these guys that are in back. They're always in back. You guys always see them. But they're bringing up the rear and they're supporting us all the way. I'm just blown away. A year ago, I had a little bit of fear and trepidation when you go to a new arrangement for a safety surface. Is it really going to work? Are they really going to? And man, they are us. I mean, we are partners. It's the same as the YMCA at the CRC. It's invisible as to any borders or that kind of thing. They've just done a phenomenal job, and it's great to have them as a member of our team. Let's talk about fiscal. You always want to know how you're doing fiscally, what is going on in the city. And under previous city manager Ed Tweeds, and Ed is here, you should recognize Ed. The city's developed something many years ago called the Sustainable Budget Strategy. It's the thing that kind of rules the whole process of developing the yearly budget. And we kind of always focus our effort in terms of the budget, in terms of what we are forecasting to happen in the future, a 5-year outlook of what needs to happen. And the Sustainable Budget Strategy says that if our reserve level, the amount of funds that we have in reserve, falls below 25% of the total amount required, that we need to take some action to start correcting it. And if it ever gets down to this red line, the red line kind of means exactly what you would interpret. That's just not, we don't allow that to happen. We cannot allow that to happen. And for quite a while, we're projecting being quite a bit under the 25%. And that actually never did happen. And we actually got very kind of optimistic when the recession was over and things went up fairly dramatically. We were thinking, oh man, here we're going to really build rapidly. So there's no bad news here, but what you see out here in the future years that we're projecting is not a lot of surplus. We're just barely, making it. In a couple of years, we're still going down, and then when we finally get out there, we're going up, but not rapidly. So we're very safe fiscally. We have this to guide us through this budget cycle. We'll be going through the budget cycle in May and adopting the budget in June in the standard kind of process that we follow, but we are guided by the sustainable budget strategy and looking at the 5-year forecast. Infrastructure is a big area, and we spent a lot of time discussing it at our retreat this year. In terms of accomplishments, we got Butterfield open. Fantastic. A lot of work going on sidewalks. This is an area in the Old George Day area where the sidewalk has kind of been rerouted because of you see those big trees behind the fence and their roots were moving the sidewalk. So sidewalks are being fixed up. We are doing things in terms of infrastructure. And here's a very, very confusing chart that I'm not going to spend a lot of time on. I'm just going to try to net it out down here. There's something called a pavement condition index, PCI, pavement condition index. If it's below 70, you're in pretty bad shape. Things are not good if you ever fall below 70. If you're above 80, you're in very, very good shape. Above 80 is the place to be. You don't want to be at 100 because that would mean that you're out there every day making things new again. You don't want to do that. So you want to be in the 80s. You don't want to be below 70. Where we are right now is right at 70. Today we're at 70, and we have a backlog to get us up into the 80s. It would take $20 million to do that. What we have is $1 million. That's what we've allocated in the budget to spend on pavement conditioning. In 2018, 4 years from now, the index will fall to 63 and the backlog will go to 30 million if we only spend that $1 million a year. So what if we spend $3 million a year? Then we can break even. We can keep it at 70 and have a backlog that's equivalent to essentially equivalent to what we have today. If we had unlimited money, say $10 million to spend every year, we could get that pavement condition index up to where we want it in the mid-80s, no backlog, we'd solve everything. But the problem is, we only have $1 million. So we're going to focus on that. We're going to figure out what are the alternative ways of going about things so that we don't fall below the 70, that we don't go down to the 63 level, and that we do keep it going the right way. So what we've asked for and what we'll be getting later on this year, toward the end of the year, is a comprehensive prioritized report. It won't be restricted just to pavement. It'll be on a lot of our other assets within the city so that we can really focus totally on replacement as we go forward of our infrastructure. You can't talk about infrastructure. Every year we have to talk about flood control. Well, we got maybe some better outlook. Flood control, as you know, if you've been around at all in Morgan Hill, you know that back in the 50s there was this project called PL 566 that was promised by the federal government to take the Yagas Creek and make it a flood channel from all the way south of Gilroy to all the way north of Morgan Hill, or northern part of Morgan Hill. And that happened. They built a good part of that flood control project up through Gilroy. And then they stopped. And now, ever since I've been involved, they've been telling us, well, the project is to go from where they stopped up through Morgan Hill, and it doesn't pencil out in terms of benefit-cost ratio and all those kind of things. So we've been fighting and lobbying to get funds from the federal government. We've even tried to give them money so we could complete studies so that we could get money from the federal government. And we're making a little bit of progress there, but it's like I was trying to find a picture of beating your head against the wall, but I found a picture of the hammer instead. And so maybe it's time to say, after 50, 60 years, we ought to take a different approach. So we're going to look at different approaches, alternate to the federal government. We have to keep the federal government involved so that we can get the money that we need to buy the right-of-way for the construction of the flood control channel. But we might not need too much of their money if we can find alternate sources. So we're looking at that, and we're looking at it very positively, as if it's something that we can accomplish, and that maybe will stop beating our heads with a hammer. I could easily talk about youth for a couple hours. I won't do that, but there's a lot going on. We kind of adopted last year youth as a thing that we said was a priority for the year. And when we reflected on it this year, as I said earlier, we decided that's not something just for this year. We're going to focus on youth all the time. It's an ongoing kind of thing. We've done some things. We are doing some things. And I'll show you some of the stuff that we're doing. Employment for youth. They had a workshop. Chris Fione's group had a workshop for youth on the 8th of February. On the healthy eating and healthy food at school and things like that, we have this Community Transformation Grant, CTG, Community Transformation Grant, in conjunction with Gilroy and all of South County, looking at how do we stop tobacco, how do we get healthier foods for families, for children, and for adults. And so there's things going on there. This was kind of the notion that we built this thing on last year. This is a chart from last year. We thought that youth should be in the center, and that we as the city would be one spoke of the wheel, whereas the schools and school district would be a spoke of the wheel, and sports and faith-based communities and other kinds of activities would be spokes of the wheel, and we'd all kind of join together on this. So I'll keep talking about this to different groups to get them involved and really sell this concept. And it's all built around the 41 developmental assets, the Project Cornerstone assets that we have been pushing for 12 years in this city. The school district is on board with us now for the last 4 or 5 years. We formed something called the Community Asset Builders, CAB, Community Asset Builders. They're going to meet tomorrow in this building at noon and hear about something that I'll talk about in just a minute. Community Asset Builders is any group that serves youth within the community that wants to help promote the 41 developmental assets can get together. The Project Cornerstone brought those under the guise of the YMCA to Santa Clara County, and they are really, really embedded in our culture now. Speaking of that, Community Asset Builders and our YAC, our Youth Action Council, they are hosting at Loretta Bonfancy Johnson Education Center out on Tilton a community conference built around youth on Saturday, April 12th from 8:30 to 2:30. So encourage you all, if you want to get involved with our youth and all the organizations that serve our youth, to get involved with that conference. It'll be great. YAC, I just had to show a picture of some of our YAC kids with Chicky in the middle there. And they were at the city council. They are the stars of the city council meetings. If you come to the city council meeting, there's 2 every month city council meetings. At one of those meetings, the YAC kids come and present the asset of the month. They talk about 1 or 2 of the 41 developmental assets, and they present it themselves in their own way with skits or with slides or different ways of presenting it, and they always get a much bigger hand than the council ever gets. They're fantastic. I showed that chart before, but I think it's one of the ways that we're serving our kids is at the library, and opening it on Monday helps that. And we're going to go work with the library staff this year to make sure that every kid in Morgan Hill gets a library card, do those kind of things. The police have done a fantastic job. I do something at one of the campuses. It's the Oakwood school down there. And I walked up there one day, and Officer Max Cervantes was surrounded by kids. And so this picture of Officer Alanis with a couple of kids at Sobrato High School. That's what's going on at our schools. And those kids are smiling, they're interchanging. It's not a cop and students, it's like a partnership. They're working together, they're getting to know each other as people, not as in their positions. So it's fantastic. We're working with the Healthier Kids Foundation of Santa Clara County to make sure that all kids in Morgan Hill are insured. We're making progress. We've actually funded an effort through the city, and Healthier Kids Foundation got some money through First Five, and we have a resource here in Morgan Hill that's identifying uninsured youth and getting them insured. They're making great progress in terms of networking within the city and establishing their network, and they're getting off the ground in terms of getting more kids enrolled. I think they're somewhere close to 30 kids that we've gotten enrolled so far. So it's really taking off, and I think it's going to build from there. The city owns a building over on Crest Avenue, and we, for $1 a year, we rent it to Catholic Charities, which at that facility runs the El Toro Youth Center. And that was taken over by Catholic Charities in 2007 when the previous Community Solutions was no longer able to fund the staffing of the center. So Catholic Charities came in, has done a wonderful job, kept the facility open, kept it going, and it's doing very well. It's serving about 60 kids. There's still, you know, some financial problems. There is tuition now that they didn't used to have, but they're still surviving very well. The Catholic Charities, and I think they would tell you this, never were quite the right fit for running that. That's not their sweet spot, is running after-school facilities. So we have coming in the Boys and Girls Club of Silicon Valley. And they're going to take it over, not now, not until the end of the school year, which is the logical time to make the transition. But they're going to make that transition, and then it'll be the clubhouse, right? Boys and Girls Clubs does clubhouse. So looking forward to them at the Community Asset Builder meeting tomorrow. Dana Fraticelli, the executive director of the Boys and Girls Club of Silicon Valley, will be in attendance and kind of explain her whole plans. And part of what she'll talk about, you know, the El Toro Youth Center is very near Galvin Park, and we're putting a lot of our I won't use the acronym, a lot of our funds that we get through from the federal government into Galvin Park to really modernize it, really make it a much more attractive facility for youth and for families. And we've already modernized totally the Friendly Inn. We have some nonprofits in there that are using it. Now, the Boys and Girls Club is very interested in expanding their scope beyond just 60 students. So the nonprofits that are in the Friendly Inn don't use it all the time. We're going to look at ways of maybe sharing it or doing something to get more youth served within the community, and that'll be fantastic if we can build the numbers of youth that we serve. So enough on youth, I can spend the whole night on it. Economic development is always important to us. We had some fantastic sessions this last year in 2013, and this was a day at Mamma Mia's restaurant just over here that was dedicated to tourism and bringing, you know, the sports angle and the winery angle and the downtown angles and getting them together and cross-pollinating and getting some ideas on what could happen. And some great ideas came out of that. We've also followed on to some of those activities with the downtown street scenes that took place at the end of November of last year, right down between 2nd and 3rd. They closed off the parking spots and made things out of them. A really cute picture of a girl that was mailing a letter to Santa in one of those spots. And then earlier in September of this year, we had, attended by over 70 people right here in this room, we had a business resources event. So our economic development department of one person, Edith, has been doing a fantastic job. Businesses are coming into town. We've had more businesses come in some years, but we have some good businesses coming in. You thought that Seagrams couldn't possibly overflow their facility down in Gilroy, but they did, and now they have an overflow facility here And that's great tax money income from sales tax. One of Jennifer's new favorite stores downtown doesn't have a sign on it, so I had to put a sign on it, Maison A downtown. But there's, you know, different businesses coming in, and there's, as we said before, kicking this off, there's housing going on everywhere. A lot of the pent-up demand, the backlog that was built during the years that nobody could afford to build houses, they still were getting allocations, and so now they're building those allocations. In addition, there was 500 exempt units in the downtown that didn't have to get allocations. They can kind of automatically build, but then they get factored into the population for calculation of the population cap. So these are, you know, the lodge, the units right down kitty corner over here, and then the units, that's the units that that are right up the street next to Mom and Dia's there. Just some of the building and housing that's going on downtown or around town. Engagement and diversity. Now, remember, engagement is one of our themes, and you've got to get people involved. We've been underway now for a year on the general plan update, and I'll talk a little later on exactly what's going on there in the schedule, but that's one of the prime places where we really want a lot of involvement, because that's where we're defining the future of this city. So it's just critical in terms of engagement to get involved in that. And you see some of the working sessions that we've had already for Morgan Hill 2035. Here are some of the engagement activities that I'm involved with. I have a coffee with the mayor, not necessarily every month, but every month to 2 months. And I have lunch with the seniors. Coffee with the mayor, see you again. Lunch with the seniors. Lunch with the seniors. That was Tuesday. I was there on Tuesday. So those are both fairly recent. On April 5th, I'll be having coffee with the mayor, and Chief Swing will be joining me. And on May 3rd, I'll be having coffee with the mayor and our county representative, Mike Wasserman, will be joining me for that. And then the next lunch with the seniors, well, I'll be there on, that's supposed to be April 11th. I don't know how we got May 11th on. We also, I don't have any pictures of it, we do have every couple of months, every 2 to 3 months, a meeting in this room of an interfaith council that anybody is invited to, but the kind of the theme is the faith-based community and what can they do in terms of kids and assets and any other thing that we think and deem that they can help promote. So engagement, Maureen, where's Maureen? Let's recognize Maureen. Maureen Tobin is our kind of our chief information officer, our engagement guru, if you will, and pointing out that the city of Morgan Hill just created a new engagement Facebook page, but that's in addition to 11 others that were already in existence. You know, one at the police department, and Chris Gioni has several in his bailiwick. So we want to create a public participation plan, and I'll show you some of the thoughts that are going into that. We want to expand our social media presence, and many of you here tonight, maybe because of the social media presence. We want to open up our data so that, you know, if you want to know what's behind this piece of data, you click on it and you can see the data that leads to it. We want 175 ambassadors, employees of the city that are all into engagement, into communication with the public, into making sure that the city is doing what the public wants it to do. And we want to involve and get more diverse in what we're doing, to get more segments of the community involved in all these areas. So we want to pull together a group of leaders that are diverse in and of themselves and get their guidance on how we ought to do that so that we can broaden that. And we had a very successful event about 2 or 3 years ago above the sound barrier. Is that what? Breaking the sound barrier. And we didn't intend for that to be a one-time thing. We want to bring that back and expand it and use it as a base to build something really special in terms of an event that celebrates the community of Morgan Hill, its diversity, its values, and so forth. So this is just a kind of a brief overview of what we're looking at. These are levels of public participation. What I'm doing right now is informing you. You're not giving me any feedback yet. I'm going to, of course, take questions later. But inform means kind of what it says, that it's a one-way conversation. When you consult, the next kind of level is you're listening, you're giving some feedback, you're getting some feedback, there's dialogue at least. And then involvement says, well, you know, I'll let you give me some alternatives, maybe I'll pay attention to them, maybe I won't, but play part of it. Play into it and we'll see what we're going to do with it. Whereas collaboration says you're definitely going to pay attention to what you get. You're going to include some element of what the public told you into the final solution. And then you get all the way to the right, and that's empowerment, and that says, you make the decision. Here's a budget, here's a time frame, you go make a decision. So that's complete delegation. And so what we're going to try to do, and what Maureen's going to be working on, is looking at increasing public participation across that kind of a spectrum. Don't know quite how far. You know, you elect us to make decisions, and we do. Are we going to delegate that back to you? Where's the line and all those kind of things? So that'll be interesting dialogues that we'll be having going forward in terms of getting more engagement within the community. Let's look at our regional efforts. I think I've talked about this again. Here's a whole bunch of acronyms again. The Cities Association of Santa Clara County, the Santa Clara County Library, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, the League of California Cities, the Valley Transportation Authority, the Association of Bay Area Governments, Local Area Formation Commission, SCRAW, we pronounced that backwards. SCRAW is the South County Regional Wastewater Authority, and BACMed is the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, and that's short for et cetera. So because that's not all. And you know, we had to, with each of these organizations, we need to be involved. These organizations control our fate in terms of transportation, in terms of water, in terms of being a region. One of the things that we decided to do this year is invite Gilroy to meet jointly with us. We are a region of South County with Gilroy. We want to kind of tighten that bond a little bit. We have a very good relationship with Don Gage. As the mayor, he was the previous county supervisor, but you know, we don't know a lot of the other members of their council, and we think maybe we can work better together to approach these other various organizations and get more leverage for South County. So presence, priority of money to us, and leadership is important for this regional approach. In terms of being an effective organization, we have one meeting so far of a committee that we put together on our commissions to look at our commissions. Are they functioning right? Are they doing what we want them to do? Could they do something better? And that was just a very, very productive meeting. So much came out of it. Mayor Pro Tem Liebers and I were both at the meeting, and these are the ideas that we're going to follow up on. We have another meeting next Monday night. I think that's shown here. We're going to meet again Monday night and talk through these things. They like the idea of getting together once a year for some basic training to get their new people on board, to get to know them. If they're already trained, then there's getting to know them and that kind of thing. There's cross-pollinations. The commissions loved getting to understand what other commissions do, because they didn't understand it before, and they were starting to get good ideas on, oh, you do that, maybe I should do that. So brainstorming, what are the frequency of the meetings? The Planning Commission meets twice a month, and the other commissions only meet every other month. And so how can we adjust that? How do we staff it if we're going to adjust it? How maybe could you meet more often if you had subcommittees and get more focused energy going there? How could the commissions contribute to our goals? Thus far, we've never really gotten any input from the commissions who are supposed to be advisory to the city council. What do you advise us in terms of our goals to be? So we want to get them more involved in that. We want them involved in the events that we talked about. We'll look at reorganization of the committees if that comes out of the discussion. It may not. We are trading around the status reports is an idea of bringing the various commissions in front of the council to report on what they're doing and trade around their own minutes among themselves. They're doing that now. And just how do we staff it and so forth. So that looks like it's going to be a productive outcome of really focusing on how, from a committee standpoint, can we be a more effective organization. The other thing that we're in the midst of should be done in May. I think May is the date that we're talking about moving in, is the redesigned council chambers in the old city hall. And that's kind of a layout of what it will look like from above, and that's facing, the podium here is facing to the west. So that is to the west. There's lots of good things that ideas that we're getting in. While you're putting in new facilities, let's look at the capabilities that the electronics gives us to show the voting as it's actually happening, to allow people from home to submit a speaker card so that they have something they got to say to get into the mix. So we're looking at some software that may allow those kind of things. Don't know whether we're going to, how far we're going to go with that, but it'll be fun trying it out. Environment is important to us, always very important. There's some great things going on. This facility that we're in right now, we're going to make it, totally neutral, so that the energy will be generated all internally. It'll be carbon neutral and all those kind of things. We've got 2,000 more street lamps that we approved last night that they're going to be converted to LEDs. So that'll be done by April-May timeframe. We have the plastic ban going into effect on Earth Day, April 22nd. I'm looking at April 22nd. And so, go to the recycle bags and so forth. We're going to do a comprehensive agenda review. We had it scheduled to happen at our retreat this year, and we didn't have enough time to really do a good job, so we put it over to the next council meeting. We got to that council meeting, didn't have enough time. It's too important to shortchange. So we're going to take a total workshop approach to this and dedicate a workshop to going our strategy on environmental was developed in 2007. It's been in place now for that many years. 7 years old already. Wow. And so it is time for a fairly comprehensive review. A lot of the things as we went into the recession kind of got put on hold. We had to stop doing some things. We couldn't fund them any longer. Which ones of those would we prioritize to bring back? Those kind of things. We'll be looking at that. The team, I was looking for every picture I could find of people smiling. I wanted to go around and take a picture of every employee, like I said, 175 employees. It's the feeling in City Hall is, the morale is fantastic. There is a smile on everybody's face. They are part of the team. City Manager Steve Reimer has done an outstanding job of recognition of our employees on every single agenda. There is an employee recognition taking place in addition to the yearly employees of the year and those that get singled out. It's just all smiles. Everything is smiles. And so we have never done anything as a council to say thank you to all our employees. The senior management puts on a breakfast for the employees of the city, but we think this year we ought to do something. So we're looking at maybe a summer barbecue, something like that we'll put on an employee recognition event so that the council can add their sincere thanks for our employees. Now this was the leftover focus areas from last year, the focus areas that we didn't complete. And the general plan update is underway. We're right here. We made an alternative selection in February 2014. That happened last night. We had a workshop down there, and then we went to a meeting at City Hall and did that selection. But you see that we have a long way to go. So there's ample opportunity to get involved. And that's the website that'll help you get involved. But there's a schedule of workshops coming out, and it's posted on there. And so encourage everybody to get involved with the general plan update. It's important. Downtown, that's kind of what was left over undone when the redevelopment agency went away. So where we are now, right away the acronym, Long Range Property Management Plan. The Long Range Property Management Plan was required by the state as a vehicle to say, we agree with your course of action in terms of disposing of assets that the redevelopment agency used to own. So we put together a long-range property management plan and submitted it very well in advance of the deadline of the end of last year, hoping to get an immediate response any day now. We haven't got the response yet. So that's what's a little tricky about saying the RDA thing is totally behind us. We still don't know whether they've accepted our long-range property management plan. We don't foresee, there's nobody calling us and saying this and that and the other thing and we object or anything like that. We have some questions, but they're all fairly straightforward questions, so we're very optimistic, but we haven't gotten that complete acceptance yet. But assuming that we do get the complete acceptance, we are going forward with our downtown plan, the way it was outlined in the downtown specific plan that was adopted, in 2009, 8? So that is holding firm in terms of an assumption that we try to make everything correspond to the downtown specific plan, and we'll be writing RFPs in conjunction with some consultants for that in terms of if you want to take over this property, this asset that the RDA used to own, the properties that were downtown, do it in such a way that corresponds with the downtown specific plan. We want some guidance maybe. We had put together, last year we were going with this Economic Development Corporation that we had put together. And we had gotten citizens involved in that to help. They were the owning entity for those properties. We had hoped to keep those properties and not have to turn them back over for sale or whatever to get the money to reimburse for. So we had tried to transfer them to an Economic Development Corporation, and we did that for a while, and we had a board of directors, if you will, of that Economic Development Corporation. Very, very good guidance that they gave us. We want to keep them involved if we possibly can, maybe in conjunction with the Downtown Association and the Chamber of Commerce to help guide those RFPs and keep things on track for the downtown. We are, of course, and working very hard to cement the building of the parking garage on the Sunsweet site, the site between 3rd and 4th Street. That also on the east end is on Bedford. So the garage would be at the west end of that property, kind of just next to the restaurant. Huntington Station, there you go. And so that's the plan. We have not got that cemented. There's not a total agreement with the property owner of the Sunsweet property yet. We're working on finalizing that, but hopefully that'll go through. We're very optimistic about that. We will also, that is with the bond money that we were allowed to keep. We were allowed to keep the money, and we can build a garage with the money, and then there's some of that money also left over that we can work on streetscape. Not extensive, not do a whole bunch, but there's some streetscape money. And here again, this is where we're going to want involvement and engagement of the community to help us define what aspect of streetscape should we be working on. Agriculture and the Southeast Preservation. I call it Southeast Preservation. The whole idea of annexing property in everybody's mind that's has anything to do with development and that kind of thing is that you annex property into the city so that you can develop that property. That's the mindset. We have a different approach in Morgan Hill. We in Morgan Hill want to annex property in the southeast portion of the city in order to preserve that property in the southeast quadrant of the city. It's a different mindset And we're going to try to do a lot of work this year to educate people on why we're trying to do it that way, why we see this as the best alternative in terms of being able to keep the maximum amount of land in agriculture and get some other benefits. This is a map kind of about that southeast quadrant and some of the things we picture going in there. Lots and lots of agriculture in this area, some you know, community farming capabilities, some museums on agriculture there. A high school, the Catholic high school, would be part of the property. And yes, there will be some development in there. But the development that we are going to allow to happen is to cluster the development closely together so that the rest of the property, a lot of the property can be kept open space and active agriculture, active sports, leisure kinds of capabilities. So you'll be hearing a lot more about this, but when you think annex, the only reason you'd annex is to develop. That is not what we're trying to do. We're annexing to keep it open and to keep it preserved in the best possible way. Finally, medical services. This is something that really was not on our focus last year. We didn't really look at it, and then all of a sudden, about a month ago, we had an article in the paper and on the news that St. Louis Hospital was going to be sold, and along with it, what's going to happen to DePaul. Nobody really even said what was going to happen to DePaul, which is our medical facility here in Morgan Hill. So it has very definitely come back onto our radar. We need to make sure that at the very, very minimum, we maintain the medical services that we have. Now that's at a very minimum because the services that we have are kind of minimal. We have an urgent care center, but it's only open sometimes. Really needs to be open a lot more. We don't have an emergency room capability. We need an emergency room capability. We might not need a whole hospital. You know, you keep hearing that maybe a whole hospital is unattainable. And maybe it is, but we need the services that are provided by a hospital, and we feel we could gradually grow those in the community. So right now, we just want to keep our eye on what's going on and make sure that whatever we do, we maintain at least the existing medical services that we have today. So that's kind of what I wanted to present in terms of what we established as our goals for the year. I do want to remind everybody of kind of what I keep these in focus all the time in terms of what I feel the values of the community are. We are a caring and supportive community. A couple of weeks ago, a house burned down and a family lost everything they owned. And within 2 days, everything was replaced. That's the kind of community that we have, and it's fantastic. We care a lot about our youth. We care about our seniors. We are a safe community. We always put public safety is the first thing that we talk about because safety is so important. We have fantastic recreation facilities that are supported by the entire community. Everybody likes to get out and recreate and do that kind of thing. Tolerant and respectful, completely. The council, I think, sets the tone for that, but this community-wide is very tolerant and respectful. We take pride in our community. We own our community. We feel like this is something that we got to keep together and help. And we're highly ethical, and we have our own city ethics policy that we are going to bring out again. We haven't had everybody sign it every year as we intended, but we're going to do that this year. Make sure that the tenets of honesty, fairness, respect, responsibility, and loyalty are known to all our commissioners, all our employees, and all those kind of things. And so we'll keep doing that. 2013 was a phenomenal year. We made a lot of progress, but we didn't quite complete everything. So you saw the carryover. We got to stay the course. But we want everybody to get engaged. So that'll make the community better. Are there questions? Swine. Chomping at the bit.
Since I moved here 25 years ago, I've been involved at various degrees with the flooding issue. It just blew my mind that we live in this very progressive, wonderful community, and we still have flooding issues, which creates a problem with our downtown merchants and flood insurance costs, etc. However, now with the drought suddenly coming forward, we cannot lose our focus on getting this flooding issue taken care of. And I'm wondering now with the governor and President Obama coming out, all the money being thrown at water issues in California, if we might not want to talk seriously, lobby our Senator Bill Nye, Luis Vallejo, our assemblyman, even my classmate, to see if we can't somehow sneak in there and get some of these dollars.
We do have bonding relationships with all the people that you mentioned, so we will pursue that. And we have, of course, a very close relationship with former Mayor Dennis Kennedy, who's now on the law firm.
Yes, I'm sure he will.
Any other questions? Leonette?
What's going on with BTA or the high-speed rail system? I haven't heard.
The Lieutenant Governor just came out with a statement that it ought to be trashed.
Yay!
That's the latest thing that I've heard. The governor seems to still be fighting to preserve it. Don't know, doesn't seem highly likely to me, but then you don't want to lose sight of it either. You never take your eye off that ball, because then you could get run over. Yes?
What's going on with the Anderson Dam?
With the Anderson Dam. Mayor Kennedy, would you like to address the Anderson Dam?
Well, before the drought, the plan is to start draining it next year and then start construction the following year on the seismic upgrade of the dam. We have been using Anderson as we've been pumping water from we pump water from San Luis Reservoir, excuse me, to Anderson. So we've been using that as kind of emergency storage. So depending on what happens with the drought, we may or may not, excuse me, got a frog in my throat.
Need some water.
That's a drought!
We may or may not be able to stay on schedule, depending on what. But I hear on the news and from others there are major storms coming in next week.
Oh, wow.
A series of them.
Didn't know.
And so, as someone said earlier, we also need to focus on flood controls. And we're doing. There's going to be some good news. I can't tell you. We're hoping to start construction on the flood control project by the end of this year. So that's, but yet we have to kind of drag the Corps of Engineers along in the process. So we can't tell them that we're going to do it without them, because we can't say that, but we can't say that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Yes, Carl.
I understand that the permit has been given for the clubhouse to rise golf course. Have we gotten past all the PG&E concerns?
We incorporated the PG&E concerns into the conditions of that permit. It's essentially, so, if there's any kind of safety exposure whatsoever, there's backtracking that will take place. So it's not a sure thing going forward. But hopefully, and it's not just the clubhouse, it's the whole American Institute of Math, which is going to be a huge boon to Morgan Hill. Yes.
Talking about money.
Anything else? Okay, cookies. That's next. Thank you all very much.